Let me start off by thanking all of you for being present. And let me certainly thank those who are standing with me. And I know we have the Chief of Police, Martha Montalvo, who's here. Dr. David Purse is here. Tom Lambert, CEO of Metro. State Senator, soon to be Commissioner of Precinct 1. Rodney Ellis is present. The City Council Member Dwight Boykin of District D, and we are in District D, I believe. And then there are a number of people here from different organizations, different churches. Pastor Rudy Rathmans, who has done a lot of work with the homeless. Mark Ankerberg is here with me with the homeless program. Joe Turner, of course, over Parks and Rec. And I'm sorry?
Jack Christie.
And where's Jack?
Behind you.
Councilmember Jack Christie is also present at large, and just a number of other individuals. And I want to thank you coming in. Just from your presence here today, I think we recognize the importance of of the subject matter that we are talking about. When I started office on January 14th, one of the first things that I talked about was addressing our streets and the conditions of our streets and potholes within our city. But one thing that I learned very quickly as we fix the potholes in our streets, if we don't also address people who are walking with potholes in their lives, we still are not hitting the mark. And today the focus is on just trying to meet the needs of people themselves, the human infrastructure that exists within our city that is in dire need of assistance. We balanced the budget on May 25th in record time, and we've started to work on pension problems. But improving public safety, improving the lives of people in this city are cornerstones of our efforts. Today we begin making good on the promise of addressing the public safety concerns with an aggressive plan to take back our parks and improve public safety overall. It involves the deployment of an additional 175 patrol officers, from desk jobs to beat patrol, 175 that we are reassigning to the streets, 13 more park rangers that will be focusing primarily on our parks and working directly under the direction of Joe Turner, the Parks Director, and working closely with HPD, an overtime program for roving HPD patrols in targeted parks, and a new patrol division dedicated to the Central Business District. Several parks, the downtown library, metro rail stations, and other areas are being taken over by people who are using drugs. They are scaring away families and taxing our emergency medical services with their calls for help when they overdose. And just last week, right here in this park, 16 individuals who overdosed from Kush, substances that come out of these particular bags. 16 found themselves overdosed in our parks, in Hermann Park, and had to be taken for medical assistance. And then that was repeated, not necessarily on the same scale, the day after, and the day after, and the day after. We can't have people smoking Kush and passing out just feet from our children while our children are playing. We are going to take back our parks and at the same time improve public safety throughout our streets, and at the same time put out a call for those who want help, who need help, that this city is prepared to do everything that we can to assist them at the same time. The stepped-up enforcement effort will be concentrated in Hermann Park, Peggy's Point, at the corner of Main Street and Richmond Avenue, the Central Library, Tranquility Park, Hermann Square area, and Main Street Square. The park rangers will receive HPD training and will be outfitted with radios so that they will be able to communicate directly with HPD and any other assistance that will be needed to identify individuals with drug abuse problems or mental health behavioral issues. Metro has increased police presence along the rail line, and HPD is using overtime to add roving bike and golf cart patrols in the parks. And I certainly want to thank Metro for partnering with us in this effort and increasing their presence around the Metro stops and on the Metro rail systems as well. These new components are in addition to the 175 extra officers that were already expected to begin hitting the streets with the start of the city's new fiscal year on July 1st. About 50 of those cops will be assigned to the new downtown division, and others, the other 125, will be assigned to neighborhood patrols. Houston is not alone in dealing with the Kush problem. From Austin to New York to Mississippi, all over the state, we are facing the problem of dealing with this new sort of epidemic dealing with Kush. A check of new reports find many other cities, from Dallas and Austin, as I've indicated, are wrestling with this issue. A drug that can be almost 30 times or sometimes 100 times more potent than marijuana itself. Solving the Kush epidemic is going to require more than stepped-up police enforcement. That helps in the short term. But looking longer term, we will need to address the availability of the drug and solicit the involvement of the faith-based community and those who treat substance abuse. It will require greater use of the Sobering Center and working to build and expand its capacity. It will require the need for detox facilities. And it's unfortunate that we lost Riverside Hospital, which was a major source. It will require the assistance of the Texas Medical Center, one of, if not the largest in the world. But yet in the shadow of the medical center, we are standing in Hermann Park, where people are in need of substance abuse. And it's going to require their assistance in dealing with this. It will require us expanding our initiatives for the homeless programs. And I do want to draw a distinction from those who are homeless in our city and from those who are on the streets utilizing drugs. I do want to draw a distinction because there are people in our city who are homeless, primarily because of their financial means or domestic abuse, and they mental and behavioral health issues, and they find themselves on the streets. And we will continue to expand and work aggressively to provide housing and wraparound services for them. And then there are others who are walking our streets and who are utilizing substance and utilizing Kush and have intermingled themselves with the homeless population and giving the homeless a bad connotation. That's a different group, and we do not condone people, for example, walking our streets, utilizing drugs, smoking Kush, and making it difficult for families and others to take advantage of the parks like Hermann or Moody or the libraries or other public spaces. Now, they too need help, and I think we recognize they need help, and we are more than willing to assist them. But we cannot and will not in this city tolerate individuals who are utilizing Kush in our parks, falling out, and then utilizing needed and necessary EMS services that take away from others in this city. And so we will address it in a holistic way. It is not going to be easy, but we can't shy away just because it will be difficult. And these are our parks, our neighborhoods, and our city. And everyone should feel free to enjoy them without fearing for their public safety. Now, lastly, before I turn it over to Chief Montalvo, there may be some who will simply say, Mayor, you are focusing on Hermann and Moody and the library, and so you're simply pushing it from one area and you're pushing it somewhere else. Well, number one, let me just say this. To do nothing is not an answer. To simply ignore the problem doesn't make the problem go away. The problem will simply exacerbate and grow. And if they move someplace else, then our ability, the resources that we are putting in place, the teams that we put in place, must be dynamic enough to move where the problem is. And so wherever the problem is, we have to be dynamic and fluid enough to go to where that problem is. But that's also is why we need the additional resources. And this is not just a city of Houston problem, and it's not just a state problem. This is a federal problem. And so this is the start. It's not going to be easy. The approach must be holistic. It's not just about trying to lock people up. It's not trying to move the homeless out, but do separate the homeless from those who are on the streets, walking the streets, using drugs, using Kush, and then intermingling with this population. And it's going to take the support of the faith-based community, because it's not just about just feeding people, it's about attending to their holistic needs. And so if we work collectively, if we work together, I think we can reduce the problems that we find. We can meet people's holistic needs. We can have smooth streets and deal with the potholes. But at the same time, we have to deal with the potholes that exist in people's lives. And today we're focusing on the human infrastructure that must be addressed in this city and that simply cannot be ignored. This is the first step. It's not a perfect step, but we cannot sacrifice the good while we strive to find the perfect. And so I hope people will understand. I hope we can work collectively in the city and in partnership to address our needs, but this is a step that must take place in order to protect our city, to protect our families, to protect our children. Having said that, and then lastly, what I want to point out, it's also going to take the support of stores and businesses in this city who are profiting from selling and these type of packages, okay? Because the people on the streets, they're not just making they are not the ones who are making this stuff, this synthetic, whatever you call it. The street people are not making this. Somebody is making it, and somebody is selling it. And we want to target them even more than the people who are smoking it, okay? Because the people that I see that are on these gurneys, that are being taken to some recovering center, they didn't make it, and they did not sell it. But they certainly are the ones that are using it. And this, too, must come to an end. And the legislature and the feds must join with us in dealing with this particular problem. Chief Montalvo.
As stated by the mayor, the Houston Police Department is committed to making the parks and our public areas in our city places which can be enjoyed by all members of our community. So as he stated, we are going to be stepping up enforcement efforts, but we are going to approach this problem in a multifaceted manner, where we are going to be utilizing our homeless outreach team to divert and provide outreach as much as possible. But at the same time, our officers will be ensuring that there are no violations of the law. There will be high visibility with uniform presence, bike officers, crime reduction officers, tactical officers, as well as mounted officers. The operation, as stated, will be done utilizing on-duty officers, but we will also be doing this on a overtime basis. We will also be making recommendations to the Parks Director regarding lighting, fencing, signage, environmental recommendations that we believe could deter criminal activity. What I want to impress on everyone is that once the operation completes its mission, which is public safety, through training the park rangers and working hand in hand alongside of them, we intend to continue keeping these areas free of criminal activity. And we are committed to maintaining our presence at these locations so that this does not again become a haven for drug users. Now I want to talk a little bit about the new patrol division that will be dedicated to the Central Business District. Currently, downtown is policed by the Special Operations Division. Special Operations is responsible for police services in the downtown area, but they are also responsible for special events and dignitary visits that occur throughout our city. Events such as the NCAA Final Four, the Copa soccer tournament, the visit of presidential candidate Trump, the Pride Parade, and the upcoming Freedom Festival and the Super Bowl. And when these events occur, it was very difficult to balance the needs of downtown, which we all know is becoming more and more residential, and the need of providing a safe environment for these type of events. Therefore, Special Operations will be split into two divisions. The new Patrol Division will be called the Downtown Patrol Division. They will be handling calls for services as well as quality of life issues that occur in the downtown Central Business District. The Special Operations Division will now focus on these special events and manage special response groups, mounted patrol, citywide bike training, and the catastrophic planning unit. The mayor also talked about the 175 officers that are going back to the streets. This has already been occurring slowly, but it has been occurring. We have about 64 police officer positions that have been reallocated among the various patrol stations, and some of those positions are going to the new downtown patrol division. 13 sergeant positions have been reallocated as well. The remaining 98 positions will be reallocated as we hire 67 new civilian positions to backfill these administrative functions. And we anticipate that this should be completed by the end of the summer. So there's a lot of things going on. We are dedicated to ensuring public safety, and we appreciate everybody's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Let me now call on Dr. Peirce.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for coming out. Kush, K2, Spice, it goes by a variety of names. The mayor has a bunch of packets here. You'll find that some of these are, they actually use cartoon characters and so on and so forth to advertise. It is sometimes called synthetic marijuana. I think it's important that everybody know that there's very little marijuana about it. It is a synthetic drug that is made in a lab. Marijuana, of course, is a plant that is grown. It is, as the mayor pointed out, it can be many, many times more potent than marijuana. The only things that are similar with marijuana is that it's frequently smoked. And for many people, the high that they get is a somnolent high. They settle down. But unfortunately, that's not what happens all the time. Many people become absolutely, totally unconscious. That can happen suddenly on a sidewalk, in the street. Sometimes they become quite violent, at which point they are an absolute danger to themselves and to others. So as we call it synthetic marijuana, some people may get some comfort in that, but we should have no comfort in it whatsoever. We also mentioned the strain that is putting on the Houston Fire Department. Since September 1st of last year, the Houston Fire Department has gone out on 3,000 overdose cases. Just short of 1,400 of those, just a little bit below half of those, were Kush related. And we have some maps here that have been pointed out to show you where in the city the fire department is responding to and transporting patients to the hospital from what we believe to be Kush overdoses. Of those 1,400 cases, 129 of those are repeat callers. This is one of the things that we've discussed with the mayor, is that there are a lot of people who we are transporting multiple times. So obviously these individuals have got a serious issue with their lives. The mayor talked about how the people are dealing with the potholes of their life, and we need to help them with that. And we can clearly point out that that is, in fact, actually what is happening. Hospitals, not only does the fire department spend taxpayer dollars in transporting these folks, but then we take them to hospital emergency departments. And we already know that many of our hospital emergency departments are overcrowded. There's an expense that goes on there as well. These folks are very often complicated from a medical standpoint. They chew up the resources of the emergency department, the nurses and the doctors. And these are resources, our emergency resources are there for emergencies. And when our paramedics, our firefighters, our doctors, and our nurses in the emergency department are taking care of folks who had they had opportunities in their life to go in different directions, they wouldn't be there. That would make it more available for people who are having complicated childbirth, heart attacks, strokes, victims of car accidents. And that's what those resources are really designed for. And yet a lot of that effort is being misplaced, or displaced, I should say, to Kush. And so this is a serious problem. It costs a lot of money, both financially and also in a human toll. And hopefully these efforts will help curtail that. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Peirce. This is a growing, dynamic city with a lot of people that live in our city and people who are moving to our city. And one thing that I think many of us, if not most of us, can agree is that we need multimodal forms of transportation. But what I am concerned about is that if people are looking at our bus system and looking at our light rail system and believing that our transportation modes are not safe, or they are bringing people into their neighborhoods, then people are not necessarily willing to get on a bus or get on the train or be supportive of multimodal forms of transportation. The problem is not the bus, and the problem is not light rail. The problem are the folk who have some issues that need to be attended to, and we have to address it, but at the same time, we got to keep them safe. And so let me call on Tom Lambert, the CEO of Metro, to address what Metro is also doing and how they are partnering with us in this matter. Tom? Oh, you're right behind me.
Let me say that Metro fully supports the mayor's initiative in making sure that public safety is a real priority in this community, not just in the short term, but the holistic approach he's going to take in the longer term. Metro's role is to make sure, as the mayor said, giving multimodal opportunities for people living in our community, people visiting our communities, to travel throughout our community in a safe, efficient way. The Metro Board has made it very clear our first priority is making sure that our system is safe. And I want to put that in the proper context, as the mayor said. If you look at May of 2016, over 1.5 million people rode just the rail component of our system throughout our community. We only had 3 serious crimes reported during the entire month of May of 2016. 1.5 million people rode that rail system with only 3 serious crimes reported. You'll see the same experience back in April. April, about 1.5 million, and again, we only had 4 incidents reported back then. But the mayor hit it right on the mark. People have to not only hear the facts, but they have to perceive our system to be safe, and that's what this is all about. So it's not about homelessness, as the mayor said, it's about those that are engaged in illegal activity. Metro police officers will be stepping up their visibility on the system, as well as the entire Metro team. We'll make sure that those that are engaged in illegal activity, as Chief Montalvo says, will take the appropriate action to make sure their unacceptable behavior is really focused on. We'll make sure that we reinforce Metro's code of conduct. There's a code of conduct of acceptable behavior in using public transit. The vast majority of our customers only want to get to work, they want to get to school, they want to get to church in a safe, convenient, reliable way, and they don't want to be negatively impacted while they're having that travel experience. We're committed to make sure we do our part in partnership with the Houston Police Department, the Houston Parks Department, the Houston Fire Department, the mayor's leadership, to make sure we play our role, that we focus on that. We want to make sure that the community knows that you go to any rail platform and you see a blue light and you're concerned about your safety, hit that blue light. It'll get you immediate emergency response to whatever concern you have. If you've got mobile applications, go to MPD Connect. That will take you directly to the Metro Police communication staff at Houston TransStar to respond to whatever your concerns are. We're going to put our ambassadors on the train to emphasize code of conduct, to make sure we're communicating the message of the expectations on the system. And Mr. Mayor, I assure you we will do our part to make sure that if anything is out of line, we work in a partnership to get it back in line. We want to thank the mayor for his leadership. We want to thank him not just for the short-term public safety initiatives he's talking about today, but I know he's looking at longer-term, holistic approaches we can take to continue to improve public safety in our community. And Mr. Mayor, Metro is fully supportive of that initiative.
Thank you, Tom. Let me also, Councilmember Brenda Stardick, who's the chairperson of Public Safety, is also present. There you go. Thank you, Councilmember Stardick. And it's not just a city initiative, because quite frankly, if you're in the city of Houston, you also live also in the county. And so I certainly want to call on the state senator for now, and then soon to be the commissioner of Precinct 1, and I believe this is in Precinct 1, and that's, where did he go? Oh, he lost so much weight, I didn't recognize him. State Senator Rodney Ellis.
Mayor, thank you very much, and I just want to say how proud I am of you and your entire team. It is a very serious problem. I ride through this park and the other locations that you mentioned on a regular basis. I'm committed to working with you in my current capacity, in my future capacity. Obviously, the concept of wraparound services is just so important. And I know you and I have fought over the years to try and draw down as much federal money as we can, and we're going to continue to do that in a bipartisan way. And I think that's a really big part of it, because at the end of the day, even for these 3 locations and others, the real issue is how do we pay for it? It's a great plan. It's an excellent concept, and I've worked with you over the years. I know to the extent that there's a need for adjustments, you will make them. I'm committed when I take the new slot of trying to find county resources to help as well. But as you know, a big part of it is going to be how we get access to health care. Because if somebody makes the decision they want to get off, we got to make sure we have the treatment facilities and the funds to get them off, and we can get that done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. 2 more speakers, and then we'll take questions. I certainly don't want to be in the council member's district and not have him also speak to the issue, because I know it's very near and dear to him. And so, Council Member Dwight Borkin in District D, where we are right now.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just say to the Houston Police Department, thank you, and to the upcoming bike patrol officers that will be doing this work, thank you so much in advance. I want to thank the EMS and the fire department for their commitment. But most importantly, I want to thank Mayor Sylvester Turner. This man has been here in 5 or 6 months and has taken on many challenges to make our city great. Mayor, I really appreciate it. Your heart is at this in this job, and you're doing a fantastic job. I want to also recognize 2 of my colleagues again, Brenda Stardick and Jack Christie. Thank you all for being here. Kathleen O'Reilly, the residents of the Museum Park neighborhood, thank you all so much for your patience, for allowing us to work through this process. The time is now that we can now have a quality of life in our neighborhoods and in our parks. Thank you so much, Mayor. Again, thank you so much.
And I know it's been heavy on thank you, Councilmember. We spent a lot of time on the public safety issues, the 175 additional police officers on the street, working in conjunction with Metro. But at the same time, I do want to emphasize the importance of separating the homeless population from those who are walking the street and using drugs. And so I think it's only fitting for me to bring up someone whose focus has been on providing housing and assistance in a holistic way to people who are in need. And that's Rudy Rasmus, the pastor of St. John, because on this initiative, I think it's important for us to work very, very, very closely with the faith-based community on so many different levels. So, Pastor Rudy Rasmus. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. You know, first of all, I'm grateful to our mayor for his sensitivity to people in need and people who have the potential of falling through the cracks. For the last 24 years, we have been providing intensive services to the homeless community here in Houston. And over these years, we have recognized one thing, and that is every homeless person has a story, has been on a journey. And in that, I'm here today really just representing our constituents who often don't have voices. This park, I've been connected to this park for 60 years. I had birthday parties in this pavilion. There was a water fountain in the zoo across the street, the Lion Heads Fountain. When I was a kid, one of the beautiful aspects of that zoo was that it was the one fountain in this city where every kid, regardless to race, creed, color, could drink from at the same time. My ongoing quest is that our facilities in this city are always accessible to not only those with, but those without. And I know with this administration, we're going to see fairness at hand, even in the midst of a perilous situation, and that Kush is definitely a perilous situation. So we are here, Mayor, we're pledging our support. On behalf of the faith community, the part that I represent, we are here to see some solutions go forward, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just close by saying this. We're targeting certain areas, but let me be very clear. Every neighborhood is important. Every child, every family is important. And we intend to provide the same degree of oversight and protection to everyone in the city. There has to be a starting place. This is where we are, but we want to be dynamic and fluid enough to go to wherever the problem is. And I believe the Hermann Park Conservancy is also here. Those who are affiliated with the Hermann Park Conservancy, if you'll just kind of show your hands. Thank you all, and thank you all for what you do.